What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be going over my Fortnite settings, but I'm also just going to talk about a lot of these settings and why I choose the setting that I do and what you might want to do differently. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, comment down below what you prefer to play on, controller or keyboard, and stick around towards the end of this video because I have a super exciting announcement that's been in the works for a while, and I'm like very excited to finally be able to share this with you guys. So we're just going to get right into our settings here. I play on PC, I play controller on PC. I used to play on console back in the day, but once Fortnite added crossplay, it became pretty inconvenient to play on console, and the newer consoles like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X weren't out yet. So I play on PC, 240 FPS. I play on performance mode. I get comments about the graphics settings sometimes in game asking why my game looks the way it is. It's because performance mode, this is to like optimize the game and make it run the best it can run, give you the best frame rate you can get, the most consistent frame rate you can get, as well as the lowest input delay. And this lowers the graphics quality, and this is also why there are things like grass removed on certain PC players' games and stuff. So brightness 100%, colorblind I'm off. The rest of this is just like kind of medium or low, medium view distance. There was a bug back in the day where like the view distance was set to medium. A lot of people think this affects the range at which you can see players, but it's the range at which you can see like loot and things of that nature. Texture is low, mesh is low, show FPS on. Toggle sprint I have on off. This makes it to where you tap the sprint button if you want to sprint, and then you tap it again when you want to stop sprinting. I used to play the toggle sprint on like a while ago, but I feel like toggle sprint off is just better for having more control over your movement. Auto open doors I have on. I'm not really sure how big of a deal this is. It probably is better to have off for zero build, but I just have it on because it's more convenient to play. And back in the day, a lot of the people would recommend having this on just in case you messed up an edit and accidentally made a door when you didn't mean to. You just automatically go through the door and not lose any momentum. And you could make that same argument for if you're fighting around a house and just want to get through the door. Mantle activation, I have hold jump, hold the SWAT pickup, I have off. Toggle targeting, I have off. Mark danger when targeting, I have off. Auto pickup weapons I have off. Preferred item slots, I just have shotgun slot 1 and SMG slot 2. There's times where I take SMG out of slot 2 and just put nothing here. Like chapter 3 season 4 was like a pump AR meta, and I would typically have my pump slot 1 or like prime hammer AR. I would have my prime slot 1 and my hammer AR slot 2. The reason why I put shotgun slot 1 is because if you play on controller and you go to take somebody's wall with your pickaxe and builds and then replace that wall, it defaults you to slot 1 regardless of what item you were on. So it's just like the act of going pickaxe, builds, and then back to weapon puts you on slot 1. And if you're taking and replacing somebody's wall, you're probably going to want to have your shotgun out after that. And then everything else I just kind of arrange around the shotgun because you can only swap one direction per button click on controller, so I like having my AR slot 5. That way it's one swap away from my shotgun, and then my SMG or whatever my follow-up weapon is going to be in slot 2. This is a weird season because, you know, people have been using the flapjack rifle as a spray weapon, and then like the repeater rifle as like a follow-up weapon as well. Like I said, the only thing I really care that much about is that my shotgun is in slot 1, and then everything else I just kind of put around that to whatever is the most convenient for me. That way, like, my inventory can just flow naturally. Like, I can go from my AR to my shotgun to my spray weapon all in, like, one button click each. Reset building choice I have on. Disable pre-edits I have on. This is probably better to have this off. I've heard this setting adds some input delay for your edits, but, like, once I came back to the game in Chapter 2, I just put this on, and it's, like, what I'm used to at this point, so it's what I do. Turbo building on. You definitely want this. Auto confirm edits I have on reset. If you're a controller player, you definitely want this on reset at the very least, but you also might want it on both. So if you used to play edit on release, you want to have it on both. I personally was using double edit keybinds, which we'll get into later on, before they added edit on release, so I'm just used to not having it. But this is just a setting that's very much a matter of preference, whether you want it on reset or both. But I think at the very least, you want this on reset. Not sure any of this other stuff matters. Oh, tap to search, you definitely want this on. This just makes it to where you can go up to a chest and hit the search button once, and you don't have to sit there and hold it the whole time. And then I don't think any of the rest of that matters. This is just preference. Reticle is like the damage numbers and reticle damage feedback. This is just preference. A lot of people like this on cumulative. This makes it to where it adds up the numbers for you when you're fighting somebody. I just like it on list because I like seeing exactly how much damage each shotgun shot does, and I've kind of played around with cumulative a bit, but like for some reason, like I've played this game for so many years or several years, and like if I like pump somebody and then swap to my spray weapon and then pump them again and I see 180, just like my brain thinks that second shot did 180, even though it was like a combination of all the shots. So I just like list, and that's just my preference, but cumulative might be better for you. It's just a matter of preference. And then I don't know if the rest of this matters. I think most of this is just preference. I do not use gyro controls. Don't use mouse and keyboard. This is the controller settings. I have auto run off. Builder Pro, build immediately, you want on. If you have this off, your building is going to be way slower. It's like the same thing with turbo building. You just want it on. These two things I don't really think matter. Vibration I have off. I wouldn't recommend using vibration if you're a controller player. Some players like it and they just can't get out of the habit of not using it. But at the end of the day, if you're playing a shooter and you're trying to make small adjustments when aiming and fighting, and maybe you're nervous when fighting as well, like having the controller just shake while you're fighting people is just not ideal. And I would imagine it shakes while you're shooting and while you're taking damage, but I haven't used vibration since like 2007, 2008 with COD 4, so I'm not really sure. 1.9 build, 1.5 edit, use advanced options. I play 40-40, no boosts or anything like that. 12 ADS, and I've had people get confused by this and like accuse me of lying about this. This is just what I play. And then I also play linear with look dampening time on 0. And then one of the reasons why I have all these boosts on 0 is because like one of the main purposes for playing linear is just that your sensitivity is very consistent and your sense like increases at a consistent rate when you're moving your analog stick. So having these boosts off or having these boosts on linear would make your linear kind of more like expo. So that's why a lot of linear players just don't play with any boosts on. And then if you're playing expo, which you probably are if you're newer to the game, the default setting is expo. I do have a video explaining the difference between linear and expo. It'll be linked down in the description below. But if you're playing expo, this sense would probably be too low for you. Like this just really changes how your sensitivity feels and makes it just very different. So like 40-40 on expo would probably be too slow, but 40-40 on linear is a little on like the lower side, but I think it's fine. And at the end of the day, settings are just preference and playstyle. Like I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of players make is they look at somebody's settings and they're like, wow, this player is really good. I need to copy this player's settings to be really good. And that's not really the case. There's typically kind of like a range of where you want to be. You know what I mean? Like most linear players will probably be within 35 to like 55, I would imagine. And anything way lower than that or way higher than that is probably not ideal. I'm not sure of the setting range for Expo because I don't play Expo, but the point stands. There's no like perfect best settings for everybody. There's a range that's like kind of ideal and you want to fall somebody somewhere within there. And I think copying somebody's settings as like a starting off point can be good, because if you look at like a YouTuber or a pro player, odds are they play a lot and they've been playing a lot for a while, so their settings are like pretty fine-tuned. They're going to be somewhere within that range of ideal, right? But I think the mistake a lot of players make is they copy someone's settings and then they feel like they have to use those settings and not like deviate from it at all. And I think that's a real problem. Like copying someone's settings as just like a starting off point and then molding it into your own, I think can be very good. But just straight copying somebody's settings and feeling like you have to use them is not good. And dead zones are very unique setting to you. So this is how much you have to move your analog stick before the game registers any input. And a lot of players will copy somebody's dead zones and they have their controller is in a different state. Like I've had my controller I'm using now for 2 days. We'll talk about that later on in the video. That's what the announcement is. But I could probably get by on much lower dead zones here, but I just stick with what I'm used to, because as I use this controller more and more, odds are that playing on like 5-5 dead zone would start to give me some stick drift. And so I just stick with like 10-10 typically. I don't know why my left is on 11. I guess that's what it's been on for a while, so I'm just going to leave it that way. But dead zones are just very matter of preference. It's like the reason why it exists is because controllers are mass produced and they're all kind of different, and that's why stick drift is a thing. Some controllers will get stick drift on 10-10, some won't. I think the lower is better that you can go without getting stick drift, but there is a point where having it too low makes your game feel too kind of like, I don't know if jittery would be the right word, but it makes it very hard to make minute small adjustments on those really low dead zones. So play around with it. I think you want to be somewhere under 15, probably within the range of like 8 to 12, I would imagine, for most players. But if you have a really old controller that's worn down, you might have to like go a little bit higher because you might get stick drift at that point. My audio settings, I have main 100, music 29, that doesn't matter, sound effects 73, dialogue 0. This is when like the NPCs talk to you and stuff. Sound quality I have on high, 3D headphones I have on, background audio, all sounds. Visualize sound effect is a huge setting. This is when you watch my gameplay, there's like those little indicators on the screen around my reticle. It'll show you things like player footsteps, chests, lots of different things. Someone riding an animal, someone gliding, things of that nature, someone healing. There's a lot of useful audio that can be, or a lot of useful things that can be discerned from using visual audio, and especially in situations where there's just a lot of stuff going on, like if in-game you and your teammates are in a bunker spraying a different team, it can be very easy for somebody to sneak up on you because there's so much audio going on. So visualize sound effects. If you see like those footsteps, you would know there's someone sneaking up. You still need to learn how to use sound to your advantage though. I think the mistake some players make is they turn this on and then they think their awareness is just going to be God tier, but a crouching player will not show on visuals. And there's times where you can hear somebody crouching. The weapon somebody takes out, a lot of the weapons have a unique noise. And the visual audio won't tell you which weapon they took out. When someone's healing, it'll tell you someone's healing, but it won't tell you what heals they're using. And if somebody is using a mini, you're going to play that situation differently than if they're using a med mist or if they're using a slurp juice. So like a lot of these sounds matter. And then on the sound effect 73 thing, this is just what I have it on. But I think a lot of players think they need to just crank their audio as loud as possible to be able to hear things in game. And that isn't necessarily the case. The like skill with using sound to your advantage in game, I think comes from understanding the sounds in game and what they mean. Like I said, someone using a mini kind of tells you that person is under 50 shield and you might want to play that situation differently. But also being able to discern those from the other sounds in game. So if I crank this really loud, my footsteps are going to be louder, but so is the sound of everything else in game. So I've never really been someone to crank my headset to the maximum. Even back in like the COD days, like COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, a lot of people would just crank their headsets as loud as possible. And I never really did that because I feel like regardless of how loud your audio is, like the difference between footsteps and gunfire remains the same unless you're doing some weird like EQ settings that I don't even really understand. I know that's like a drama within the competitive COD scene. But yeah, I've never been one that felt like I need to crank my audio to the maximum. Visualized sound effects can be very helpful, but regardless, I think you need to learn what the sounds in game mean and how to use those appropriately and kind of how to pick those out from different sounds in game. And a lot of that just comes down to playing the game. And then even like hearing footsteps, being able to predict what that player is going to do as a result of those footsteps often just comes down to like map and POI knowledge. So a lot of audio I think is also kind of tied into game knowledge. Like you could have someone that never played the game and they're not going to get nearly as much out of the audio as someone who plays a lot and really knows the POIs. So now we're going to get into the keybinds. So my keybinds are not ideal. This is what I was saying before about settings. My keybinds are not good because I play claw, which is where your index finger, I don't know if I can show it on screen now, but your index finger is on the triangle, circle, X square, or AXBY buttons if you play on Xbox. I guess I'll have a picture of it on screen. That showing it was terrible. But anyways, I can hit all of these buttons without taking my thumb off the analog stick. And I've played like that since like 2008 because custom controllers weren't really a thing back then. But for a lot of players, having a lot of these actions on these buttons here makes it not ideal because you have to take your thumb off your analog stick to jump, and that's going to make it less possible for you to jump shot players. So my keybinds are not good. For the most part, I wouldn't recommend playing claw at this point in time. It's easier just to get a paddled controller and get used to that. It is a very difficult to be the best that you can be without playing claw or without having paddles. Unfortunately, controllers are just not an ideal way to play games, and a lot of like Fortnite is a game that requires a lot of action. So as of like a default, there's only like a few buttons you can hit while having your thumbs on the analog sticks, like maybe R2, R1, L2, L1, and then like the analog sticks themselves. But you're going to use these buttons up here mostly for shooting and switching weapons. So you really only have two buttons you can hit without taking your thumbs off the analog sticks. And that is the sticks themselves. I am sponsored by AIM controllers. We're going to talk about that later on in the video. You can use code EvolveJake for a discount. They make paddled controllers. And that is where you have buttons on the back of the controller that are activated by paddles like this. I only use one, and it's for sprint, and that's why my sprint is on a weird button. But my binds are pretty simple. When it comes to keybinds, though, you want as few things doing multiple actions as possible. Like, I think pickaxe and edit is like the same bind, or maybe it's switch mode edit is the same bind by default. And what that it does is it adds some sort of delay where the game doesn't know if you're trying to switch mode or edit. So having them be separate binds is ideal. Reload and interact, like the game sometimes might not know if you're trying to reload or interact, but that's not the biggest deal to me. And then, yeah, like I said, my binds are just not ideal. My build controls are pretty basic as well. And then my edit controls, I use L2 confirm and R2 select. One of the things I was talking about before, where I was saying double edit keybinds, and that's why I don't use confirm edit on release. I can't find it. I think the default was that like edit and confirm edit was the same button, but maybe that setting doesn't exist anymore. But like double edit keybinds was having your edit and your confirm two separate buttons. That way you could do it in sequence better. Whereas like if you had to tap the same button to edit and confirm the edit, it just added some sort of delay. And so way back in the day, like making double edit keybinds or separating these keybinds to where confirm and edit were two different things was pretty ideal. Now confirm edit on releases in the game, so it's pretty simple. But that is going to be it for my Fortnite settings, and also just my thoughts on a lot of these settings. Like I said, my keybinds are not ideal. My sense is fine, but even then, you don't want to force yourself to use somebody else's sense if it's not good for you. A lot of these settings are just playstyle and preference. If there was just one perfect setting, you would see every player using the same stuff, and that's just not the case even at the high end. We're gonna talk about a recent release from my sponsor, and the final thing we have to talk about in this video is gonna be an announcement with my controller sponsor, AIM. I've been with them for about a year or so now, and if you do customize a PlayStation 5 controller and then go down to the partners section, I do have my own design currently on their website, which is really, really nice. I'm really happy with how this came out. It has my logo on it, which you could typically find on my videos underneath my webcam. And yeah, so you could choose to get this if you want. My code EvolveJake is typically 10% off, but if you're watching this video as it came out, my code will be 25% off for today only, the 7th, Friday. It will be 25% off US orders. So if you are in the US and you want to get this today, using code EvolveJake is a nice discount that you're going to get. But recently the prices for everything have gone down on AIM's website. So for starters, I'm going to talk about what you get when you get a controller there. For starters, when you order a controller, you get the paddles and the adaptive triggers. These are different from the digital triggers now, where you can turn them off. And the way these triggers work is it's just as sensitive as possible. Like here's mine. This is how much I press it in to make an action happen. That much. Like basically nothing. And if you guys use a stock controller, you know that you can push it in a decent amount before an action occurs. So having that is nice. And then also having these paddles allows you to hit buttons without taking your thumbs off the analog stick. So you're going to be able to aim and do those at the same time. You can also get digital buttons. This is going to be your triangle, circle, X, square, and D-pad buttons. They're going to be digital to where they're like super clicky, like a mouse click. I don't know if you guys can hear this. But it just makes them as sensitive as possible as well. And then finally, there is grip that you can get on the back of the controller. I like the AIM grip. It is pretty nice. And then there's digital bumpers as well. This is like the same thing. It's going to make the bumpers or R1, L1 a mouse click, and it's going to make them as reactionary as possible. Obviously, these controllers are pretty expensive, but AIM controllers come with a lifetime warranty on the parts they modify. And I believe there's even an extended warranty that you can buy at checkout that covers things like stick drift, but the base warranty covers anything like any of these triggers breaking and any of the bumpers, the paddles. If anything goes wrong with any of that, they will fix it if you send it back to them. So like I said, it is expensive, but if you guys are, shopping for pro controllers, custom controllers, this is about ballpark price anyways, and my code will get you 25% off today. So on this order, that would be about $70 off. So you would get a fully customized controller for about $230 or so, which is still much more than a base controller. But like I said, you guys know if you're shopping for a custom or pro controller, it is a premium product, and I do now have my own custom design on there. So if you guys want to get this or in the market for a controller and want to get this, that would be awesome. If you guys tweet me or send me pictures of you with the controller, I'll definitely follow you back. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about the controllers, let me know. If you want to get my design, that's awesome. And it is for PS5 only. as far as the Evolved Drake design. I'm not really sure why, but it's just like the way it's set up, they kind of customize these pieces here. You see like the front pieces of the controller and then the touchpad, like all of those come off, so that's what they customize. So it's just a PS5 only design. But those are my Fortnite settings, and that is the controller I use in Fortnite. I get all of the features, the digital buttons, the digital triggers, the paddles, all that. Very nice to have on your controller. If you guys did find this video helpful or informative, remember to give a like, subscribe if you like some more, and comment down below and let me know if you like this controller design or not, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.